Alrighty, guys. Well, now that we got a victory royale in Fortnite, let's go ahead and talk about transphobia, or concern trolling, or, well, I guess we'll just have to see. This one is from Invader, I can't say the last part of that, Holy Slimy Knight of the Owo squashing the, can't say that word, Crusader. I kind of dropped one fan art pick and left. I'll drop more. That is, I get sincere Invader Zim vibes. I get sincere Invader Zim vibes from this, and it's wonderful. The next one we have here is from Mathematical Cabbage, Notes Doodle of Slime Raz. That is adorable. The last one we have here is from Panda Cat. For your viewing pleasure, slime in a water donut. Aww. He is adorbs. He is adorbs. As always, everyone, let me thank you very much for showing your fan art. It's hour 18. I'm sorry. I'm tired. Thank you all for dropping your fan art in the fan art section. If you want your fan art to be shown, throw it there as well. I'm stumbling over my words. Like, subscribe, all that other fun stuff. You'll forgive the tail end of the 24-hour stream eating into me as we get into the topic itself. This is from a guy whose channel is called Real Talk with Dr. Josh. And let's go ahead and see here. The video's title is Dwayne Wade's Transgender Teen Daughter, Kids Being Misled from Reality, Irreversible Consequences. Okay.
To another video. This is Zaya Wade. Zaya Wade is Dwayne Wade's daughter. Dwayne Wade, if you haven't heard of him, he is a former NBA basketball player, actually a Hall of Fame. Well, he is a Hall of Fame basketball player. He was a former NBA player. He's retired now. This is his daughter. His daughter was born a boy. And if you didn't know, if you're unfamiliar with Dwayne Wade, he's married to Gabrielle Union, the actress, and Zaya is not their child together, but they're married, and Gabrielle is her stepmom.
Okay.
The family is in full support of her having transitioned to a girl, and are in full support of how far they want to take the transition. Now,
okay.
Dwayne Wade, in some other articles, and when this first started happening, Dwayne Wade was receiving some kind of backlash from other celebrities, such as rappers and so on and so forth, of his decision to fully support this, because Zaya is 15 years old, and I believe made the decision a couple years back.
Okay, so started actually like transitioning at 15. And is here now. Okay, that's what, around the same age Keffels did? If you're 15, you can consent to a lot of different surgeries. You can consent to a lot of different medications. And a couple years on HRT, if you were to decide at 18 that your opinions had changed, you could just stop taking and you would be fine. So the title is either clickbait or this is going to take a hard turn into bigotry. We'll see here. But I don't think 15 is too young. I don't. It feels weird, but like at the same time, think about it. If somebody puberty blockers work for about 5 years, and we can have puberty onset as early as 8 sometimes, but a lot of times it's about 11 or 12 when it starts. This is around the time where we'd have to start taking you off puberty blockers anyway. So this is around the time where a decision has to be made one way or the other. So that's, I mean, 15's fine. It's fine. I know that somebody's going to get in my comments, haven't you seen adults before? Yes, I have. But also, I've known people who have done this as early as that age and been fine. So, what's the angle here? What are we doing? What's going on?
Now, I don't know if Zaya has had like full-on surgery and so on and so forth so far. Okay. But the reason why I want to bring up this is not so much...
Feels like that would have been really, pertinent information to know. before you make a video called Being Misled from Reality, Irreversible Consequences. The surgeries can be considered irreversible consequences in some cases. Most cosmetic surgeries, like, oh, you have cosmetic breasts added, they can also be taken away. Let's just play the video. Let's see what the angle is.
To focus on them as a family in particular, but their story kind of leads me into a question that I want to kind of bring out to the public and bring out to you all and see what you all think.
Sure.
So as you can tell here, there are pictures where she is modeling. So she's modeling for Tiffany & Company, and I think that's great. Like, it's okay as long as don't fall into Hollywood too much. So with Zaya being 15 years old and her family fully supporting her transition, I feel like this is kind of painting a picture for her specifically that this is a extravagant life, because this wasn't happening when she was a boy. Now,
what? Her stepmom is in Hollywood, and her dad is a professional basketball player. I'm sorry, but it's very hard to get a more extravagant life growing up than that. What? I'm confused.
Could be because she was younger, and Dwayne Wade didn't want to put his child into the modeling business at that age. That could be it. But now, as a girl, she is seeing this extravagant life of full acceptance, and of course from the LGBT community, all of the support that comes from there. And we've seen the stories on TikTok and other social platforms where kids will transition, and then when they reach their late teens or early 20s, they regret it.
Oh, it's a D-trans angle. God fucking damn it. Okay, so you're a doctor, right? You're a doctor, which means science and data, those are languages you should speak. So there are stories that I have seen on TikTok is very different than the vast majority of experiences are X, Y, or Z. That. If you're a doctor, then data is a thing you should be fluent in. So data shows that trans people are a small subset of our society, and there is a very small subset of people who considered themselves trans at one point who detransitioned, or in some cases didn't detransition but decided to androgenize as opposed to fully transition, because they realized they were somewhere in the NB spectrum as opposed to female. So when that happens, they still get calculated towards the detransition statistic, as far as I'm aware. Which means even that data is not super accurate, but again, it's a very small subset. So I keep hearing all these stories off of TikTok is one statement, but that statement doesn't mean anything. I can hear a lot of stories on any website, any news area, anything. What matters is data. What matters is the amount of people that are happy with their transition versus the amount of people who are not happy with their transition. And if they're not happy with their transition, if they have detransition, if they have actually fully detransition, sometimes another thing that is not accounted for in that data is why they have done so. Did they detransition because they truly decided that no, they wanted to go back to their assigned gender at birth? Or, as happens fairly often as well, and there's, again, plenty of stories on TikTok, if you want to use that terrible metric, if you want to use that fucking metric, then the amount of people who detransition is even smaller than you originally think, because some of the people who are calculated in that detransition statistic detransition not because they themselves wanted to go back to their assigned gender at birth, but because societal pressure forced them to. There's a variety of reasons that one might choose not to go down that route. But in every single instance, you need to understand that data is going to be king, and data tells a story. And there's things within that data that you're going to need to take account for. Like I said here, talking about just TikTok stories doesn't get us anywhere. And I would hope, as a doctor, you would know that.
And many of them have stated that they were led astray by the supporting communities and even doctors.
Many have said, many people are saying, again, this doesn't give me anything. I need a number. I need a hard number. I can't just hear many people are saying this. Like, what the fuck does many even mean? It's a nothing statement. Many can be 3 people. If you're seeing a whole bunch of positive trans community stuff, and then you also happen to see 2 or 3 things about detransitioning, that can be many for you. Or if you're on straight TikTok, because TikTok, like most things, are dictated by an algorithm, the likelihood of you seeing the detransition stories might even increase. So again, many's a nothing statement with no actual extra qualifier. It does nothing for us here. But let's continue.
That the life wasn't what they thought it would be. It didn't turn out to be what they implied, the community implied.
What are you asking? Like, what did they think that life was going to be? Because we may actually find ourselves once again in that detransition due to societal pressure area. That's a thing we might find as well. I should also note, because I want to be responsible, there are some people who may choose to transition because there is peer pressure for them to do so, and that is also a very, very incredibly small amount of people. If you choose to transition, do it because you want to, not because a greater community wants you to. Again, small amounts, but we're going to go ahead and just make sure that we're not being as sloppy as the term many.
In terms of how supportive it is. So I want to bring up the suicide rates of trans.
Hey, we went into the 42% territory.
People, because like I want to acknowledge that obviously bullying happens earlier in life.
Yep.
Happens to everybody. I mean, you can be in band and get bullied. You can be a boy who just may not be as good at sports and gym class as his male counterparts, and get bullied for that. So everyone experiences bullying, and of course that has led to self-harm and suicide in some individuals. So I am acknowledging that.
Ooh.
For people who transition and become a trans man or a trans woman.
Yes, people who transition get undue societal pressure and therefore may shoot themselves. They may kill themselves in a variety of ways. That is an unfortunate reality that we are still trying to grapple with. Let's see if he is going to be a person who helps lower that statistic or maintain that statistic.
But I also want to bring up the idea that all of this support from society and the communities to transition as a child, these kids eventually get to reality. And I mentioned in another video where I talked about what...
Did you just drop the suicide rate and then just walk away from it? Are you gonna actually, like, there's more of the video, but did you just drop that there and then walk away?
What is it? The trans rights group, they put out a meme, a social meme talking about that straight men, 98 or 99% of straight men won't date a trans woman because of hate. And I went through a whole bunch of other reasons why a straight man wouldn't date a trans woman.
It's okay. Can we go over that one real quick, just for a second? There are a variety of reasons why a straight man might not date a trans woman. There are. However, there's also a couple things to note here. There's a couple of things that need to be taken into consideration. There may be an argument that the underlying reason is a bigotry. One held in the subconscious that needs to be dealt with on your own. Not always the case. People can date for a variety of reasons, whichever reasons they want. But if his question is, if this is going to lead where I think it's going to, which is, I said a thing on Twitter and then the mob disagreed with me, I hate to tell you, but saying a thing on Twitter will cause the mob to disagree with you. It's how Twitter works.
One of the main ones being that most straight men, they have the dream of having their own child.
And you can have a child with a trans woman. There are plenty of options available, including in vitro fertilization, surrogacy, and also, one of the best ones ever, adoption. Those are options. They're there. They can be taken.
And a lot of straight men want to name their firstborn after themselves. Like,
okay. Why would that matter? Why does that matter at all? You want to name your kid after yourself. Okay, I get it. You're a bit conceited, maybe a little stupid. I want to see where this leads.
like full name. And it happens in a lot of American families. You can't do that if you're with a trans woman. You can't have your own child.
Yes, you can. I just gave you options. And so you just walked away from the suicide rate thing? You just dropped it into the aether and then did nothing with it?
Sure, you can adopt, but it's different. When these kids...
Sure, you can adopt, but it's different. Holy fuck. If I had a nickel for every time somebody's argument was beaten, and their only response was, but that's different, I would be a billionaire. I would be a fucking billionaire. Every time somebody loses an argument to a legitimate point, the first thing they say is, but that's different. But that's different. But it's different. No, 9 times out of 10, it's not. And you're moving the goalpost. Holy fucking shit. How is it different? How is it different? Here. If I blindfold you, and I take 2 babies that look similar, and have similar phenotypes, one of them is your biological son, and the other one is not your biological son, and I play the cup game with them, and when I'm done playing Shake the Baby, and I hand you one, and it's miraculously still alive, do you know which one is yours? They looked identical to in the beginning. You have no markers for whether or not they are different, and let's just assume you don't take a DNA test because you're just that confident. You raise that kid to be yours for 18 years. And only when they become an adult, that's when you decide to go ahead and take that DNA test. And you realize that, actually, this wasn't your kid all along. The magic sperm that came out of your dick changed nothing in this person's DNA. What does that mean to you? How does that manifest for you? Does that upset you? Does that cause an existential crisis? Do you start saying, this isn't my kid? Do you start treating them differently? Because we have real stories of people who go through shit like that. They have the wrong child their entire life, and they don't realize it. Some people come out the other end of that having had nothing change. Whether or not a little bit of your DNA resides in that kid's rectum doesn't change the fact that they're still your kid. You raised them for 18 years. They're part of your family. And having a similar child who shares your DNA, being with someone else, yeah, it might cause a little bit of a panic, wondering where that child actually is, but it doesn't change a whole lot with your life. All things considered. There are people that come out of the other end of that and are angry and start treating their kid differently because they don't share the biology of the child. They have this whole like, I'm raising another man's kid. But no, you're not. You're raising your kid. The one time you had fucking your wife before she stopped putting out for you didn't magically make that kid any more or less yours. That's still your kid. You raised them. There's something to be said about early on deciding whether or not you want to keep a child that is not yours. But that's early on, and usually involves things like a spouse cheating on you, for instance. This is not that situation, though. This is a situation where you didn't know if you had a biological kid or you adopted one. And the reality didn't change.
Kids, they end up transitioning as kids when they reach reality, and they start getting...
What do you mean by reach reality? Do you mean adulthood? Are you using reality to talk about adulthood? Because you could just use the word adulthood as opposed to saying trans people reach reality. Because when you say trans people reach reality, there's an assumption that there was a fantasy they were living beforehand. That's based on the verbiage you're using. It's very irresponsible and sloppy, or it's deliberate and targeted. One of the two. You pick between them. And I'm sorry, I don't find the rhetoric convincing. When this trans person hits adulthood, they might find things to be a little different. Yeah, so do the rest of us. It's called becoming an adult. Reality tends to be a little different than how you anticipated.
Interest in having relationships, wanting long-term relationships. They start thinking about sex, and then men don't want them. They may take it very hard. And not so much, not only the fact...
Man, this guy is terrible at phrasing. I'm terrible at phrasing because of the thing I said earlier. He's terrible at phrasing, talking about sex and then immediately saying, take it very hard. I'm just... If they're not getting sex, they're probably not taking it very hard, my guy. That's kind of part and parcel with the problem you're throwing up here. But many people are saying... Also, I'm sorry. I just don't agree with this position either. Some people may reach adulthood and find it's hard to date. Yeah, that can happen. You may find that a guy doesn't want you. You know, you might find a girl that wants you, or a nice non-binary person. So your particular proclivities might not necessarily matter as much there. You might find somebody for you. It can happen. I am a straight guy, and there are plenty of trans women I have seen who I think are incredibly attractive. Not the best at judging how attracted I am to them, given that I'm demi, and half the time I don't know jack shit. But still, the point is, people grow up. People sometimes have hard time finding relationship when grow up. People will blame not finding relationship on a variety of things. A person might blame themselves and say it's because they're trans. That's one way to go about it. I wouldn't say it's a healthy way, but it's a way. A person might say it's because their weight or their male pattern baldness. I'm not saying that because of your looks. I'm saying that because of mine. I'm literally saying that because of mine. That's not doing anybody any favors. But point is, people may find that they are lonely for a variety of reasons. If you want to blame it on yourself being trans, that's an issue between you and your therapist. The Warhawks, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl. But none of that really matters here. Trans people might have a hard time dating later. I don't think is a good argument for denying them their identity.
Fact that they're just not wanted, but also the fact, like the...
No, they're plenty wanted. I'm sorry. There's a reason why the term chaser is a thing. They may not be wanted for the right reasons in that case, but that term exists for a reason.
The other people that we've seen on the social apps, it may be the regret. They may be mad. They may be pissed that they were led astray. They were lied to. Because this transition idea isn't going to turn out the same for everybody.
Yeah, it's not. Just like getting in a relationship doesn't turn out the same for everybody, or getting a job doesn't turn out the same for everybody. Why does that matter?
Life never turns out the same for everybody.
So you already know this is a dumb point.
So my question is, does the suicide rate also have to do at this side of the spectrum?
The suicide rate has to do with a variety of factors that need to be tackled on an individual basis. One of said factors is society's bigotry towards trans people. Another one of those factors is how trans people feel about themselves. The best way you can fix both of those problems is by simply supporting them, whether they want to transition, detransition, or what have you. Accept the fact that this is their life, their body, and they're going to do with it what they will. And if it doesn't affect you directly, then just be supportive. If it does affect you directly, be as supportive as you can. Real Neko Anime Girl, thank you very much for the subscription. I appreciate it. But let's finish him off.
Where we're talking about
That was a noise. I had to hear it. You'll have to hear it too.
have to do at this side of the spectrum. Where
That one. That one right there. I'm going to make you do it again.
do at this side of the spectrum.
It's coming up. It's right here. It fucks with me. It's going to fuck with you.
Where
That one. Why am I fixated on this?
where we're talking about do it side
Where is it?
spectrum. Where
Why? Why is that hitting me as hard as it is? I should not be fixating on this. Okay.
we're talking about the community leading these kids into how great it is and showing all kinds of support.
You show support because the suicide rate goes down when people are supported. Weird. Funny that.
And we've seen that with one of the girls that I showed in another video where she regretted it when she reached her early 20s.
Are you talking about the one who decided to just androgynize because they're experiencing male pattern baldness? Because that is one thing that can happen based on how your body metabolizes testosterone. You transition to guy, so you deal with the positives and the negatives of the guy part. Just as if you are transitioning to a girl, sometimes you have to deal with, cramps. Some things come part and parcel with the hormones you take. That happens.
And she said she transitioned because at the time when she was a boy or when she was a girl, she didn't have any friends. But then she saw all of this community support on Instagram from the LGBT community, and she said, hey,
Could you not use those words specifically?
PT community, LGBT Instagram from the LGBT community, and
LGBT? I know that you're, I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt and say that was a misspeak. But it's a really fucking awful misspeak given the, given some of the rhetoric that people have tried to argue that LGBTQ people are groomers and throwing the P in there. You probably, maybe, just potentially need to be really careful when you say that.
And she said, hey, I can have friends. So she transitioned to a boy. She had the surgeries and reached an age and realized she made a mistake.
Okay.
And she said that she was led astray.
Okay. We have a sample size of 1, everybody. I guess it's a social contagion.
By this group. So both situations need to be looked at. The problem is only the bullying, only the hating is being looked at. And then, of course, when they do grow up and a straight man doesn't want them because they're a trans woman.
Again, it doesn't happen all the time. There's plenty of straight men. You know what? No. Here. Let's have fun. Let's do this in the comment section. People in the comment section. If you are straight, man or woman, doesn't matter, straight, and would date a trans person who is transitioning to the gender that you generally prefer, yes or no? I have a feeling I know what's going to happen with this one. I have a feeling we're going to find more support than not, given the proclivities of my particular community. So, this is also not good data gathering. I just want this as an experiment, and also because the algorithm likes engagement. Both of those things can be true. I'm transparent about that.
It's just viewed as hate. Like, no.
It can be hate
These
of a kind.
people just have preferences and goals, what they also want in life.
Yeah, if you want a kid, there are ways to have a kid while having a partner who is trans. These are things that you can do. There's some anecdote they tell about a Belgian guy who thought his abusive mom would love him more if he were a girl, transitioned, got disowned, and then unalived himself. And they use that anecdote to say trans people shouldn't be supported. They'll use every fucking anecdote they can. They will. That's just general. So, am I a trans parent? No, I am not, personally. Though, when I do have kids, if one of them wants to transition, okay. It's... I don't care. It's not my life. It is somebody else's life. I don't live vicariously through my hypothetical kid.
So, I wanted to bring that question out and ask you all, see what you all think. So leave in the comments below what you think, if it differs from what I'm saying, if I'm on base, if I'm totally off base.
I think very off base. And I've given my reasons here. I don't want to just call you an idiot. I don't want to make this just like a dunk, because that's not fair to you. It sounds like you're doing this. At the very least, you're approaching this in good faith. But you're also very off base. Said if his argument is trans women can't breed and he dated a cis woman who had a hysterectomy, then that's bigotry in action. Yep. Like, again, this is the same thing. Let's play the cup game. You have two women. One is trans, one is cis. They are completely identical in every way, shape, or form as far as you're concerned. No, you don't get to see the chromosomes. You don't get to see the chromosomes of most of your partners anyway. That doesn't matter. Both of them have all the working pieces that you could ever want. Anus, vagubu, mouthfeel, and booba. Same size and everything. Everything is literally identical with these two people. They are both very attractive and have very attractive personalities for those who are demi like me, who need that side of things before the other thing can click at all. So, if you have those two people, and I played the cup game with you, shuffled them around, and then told you, hey, you get to go on a blind date with one of them, would you... Oh, by the way, the cis woman has had a hysterectomy. We're making them very identical here. No womb, no nothing. That's been scooped out. Five Nights at Freddy's got this person and has turned their womb into an animatronic. So, these two people are borderline identical in every way, shape, or form that is conceivable to you. Which one are you going to prefer going on the blind date with? Because the answer should be, in this particular situation, if your reason is breeding, it should be identical. There shouldn't be much difference here. They sound the same, look the same, the body parts function the same, and they are both infertile. They have the same personality, same interests, pretty much same everything. I can understand if you specifically just don't want to date a trans person because that's outside of your comfort zone. That's one thing. Nobody is saying that you have to. But if you're going to give specific reasons, we're going to nitpick those specific reasons because you put them on the table for us. Those are available for us to analyze now. So I'm going to analyze them. There's my hypothetical. Have fun with it. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed the content, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, go to the Patreon if you haven't already, and insert in the video tagline here.